Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. I'm Steve Goldman. I'm the director of the Center for Free Enterprise, and I want to welcome you to our first event of the Menard Family Lecture. We have two more events this semester, both at 4:30 here in the auditorium. On Tuesday, October 17th, Jason Brennan will fill us in on why it's okay to want to be rich. You guys should all come to that and figure out why you want to be rich. You probably already know, but he'll help you out there. And then on Wednesday, November 8th, ex-U of L basketball player and College of Business undergrad and MBA alum Will Scott will talk about his life on Wall Street and how to build your career with your College of Business degree. And so Will was a great student here, and he'll give a really nice talk. One quick note, if you're here for class credit or reading group participation or Cardinal Flight, we have a QR code that will be on the doors when you leave. At the end of today's program, you scan those, and you need to complete the questionnaire. Make sure you fill out the information about your classes that you need credit for. If you're here just because you want to learn something, which even better, still fill out the forms if you want to give us some ideas about what you think we should do in the future. So, the free enterprise system has resulted in great human flourishing, so much so that we enjoy much more leisure time, have greater income than any other time in the past. And this allows us to travel, stay in great hotels, enjoy touring. Our event today is on this topic, and I want to thank our panel for participating, and I'm going to introduce Jeff Guan, our dean. He has a few words, and he will introduce our moderators. So I'm going to give it to Jeff here.
Thank you, Dr. Goldman. Hi, my name is Jeff Guan, and for those of you that haven't met, I'm the interim dean of the College of Business. And so hospitality is a very important industry. It certainly contributes a lot to the Louisville economy. And so we, of course, in Louisville, we're unique in that we also have bourbon and Derby. And but you may not know, even though you're a student of the College of Business, that we also have an equine program, which is actually the only program of its kind in the nation. And we also have a distilled spirits program, which is the only program of its kind, again, in the nation. It's distilled spirits management and not the chemical part. And but now we are also in the process of planning for a hospitality program. And I think the potential synergy is great. And of course, we also have a sports administration program that's not at the College of Business, but it's at the University of Louisville. By the way, speaking of sports, I don't know if you watched the Boston College game. And Jeff, Coach Jeff and Coach Brian are both graduates of this building. And I still remember Brian in my class attending very attentively and taking notes, and now he's running a great empire. And of course, our athletics director, Josh Hurd, is also an alum of the College of Business. So that's why we're winning, I think. And today, we have a great pleasure in having these four leaders in the Louisville hospitality industry. I will introduce the moderator, Cleo Battle, and Cleo will introduce the panelists. So Cleo is the president and CEO of Louisville Tourism, and Cleo has worked 35 years of experience in the hospitality industry. And before coming to Louisville, he spent 12 years as Vice President of Sales and Services of the Richmond Convention and Visitors Bureau in Richmond. And he held positions of Director in Sales and Sales Manager at the Richmond CVB. But his bio is too long to read. I just want to let you know that he, in the last 3 years alone, he has received 3 major awards. And currently, he's serving on 7 to 8 boards. I don't think he sleeps. So, Cleo, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here. I'm excited to get into this topic. I'm excited to partner with the University of Louisville as they consider continuing to build programs for our industry. So, with that, I'm going to introduce our other speakers, and I'm going to start down on the end with John Waggoner. He has been involved in the passenger vessel industry for more than 30 years, beginning his career in the sport fishing industry and moving through various segments of the industry, including commercial fishing, offshore oil support vessels, dinner cruise and excursion vessels, casino boats, and car and passenger ferry operations. He is the founder and chairman of the American Queen Voyages. Let's welcome John Waggoner. Sam Grabush. He has been the Chief Operating Officer for Schulte Hospitality Group since 2021. Prior to coming to Louisville, Sam spent close to 30 years in various leadership roles, including president of hotel operations for Highgate Hotels and various property-level leadership positions with Hilton Hotels Worldwide. Let's give Sam a hand, please. And last but definitely not least, because he's my boss, Scott Shoenberger joined the A.J. Schneider Company in 2014 as Chief Operating Officer, bringing more than 3 decades of executive hospitality management experience to his role. In his current role as President and CEO with AJS Hotels, Scott oversees the overall operational performance, strategic planning, and acquisition of the company's assets. Please join me in giving Scott a hand. Yes, Scott serves on my board, so he is my boss, so please be nice to him. So, I want to set the table in this conversation by starting with telling you a little bit about tourism. In August, Governor Beshear announced the Kentucky tourism industry celebrating its best year in 2022 with a $12.9 billion economic impact to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and that included 92,000 jobs in the market. And yes, if you're asking the question in your head, that's better than 2019. So we are on a roll, and I can tell you from what I know at this point, we are ahead of pace in 2023 to 2022. So all things are good in tourism. So I'm going to start asking our panelists this question, and this is going to be for each of them. What is your opinion of the state of our industry here in Louisville? And John, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so thanks. Great to see everybody here. Glad you're interested in hospitality. So I'll give you the disclaimer, I'm the boat guy, not the hotel guy, although quite frankly, they're nothing more than floating hotels. Our hotel just wakes up at a different port every day. So in Louisville, it's interesting. I'm from California, but I've lived in Louisville for the last 23 years. And most people, when I talk about Louisville, think I'm running for mayor because they ask why I moved from San Francisco, and I give them all the good reasons, such as a reasonable cost of living, a great labor pool, a great airport, a very friendly people, horses, bourbon, all the things that are good. Yet in our business, when we look at all the different itineraries that we run, when I meet with my sales and marketing team, our most popular trip is New Orleans to Memphis, and you can understand that if you're on a paddle wheel steamboat. But the prettiest part of our river is actually right here, and it's a Louisville to Pittsburgh, or it's a St. Louis to Louisville, and so it's been great because internationally, when I meet with my salespeople and I say, well, look, we have to sell more Ohio River, which we are moving towards. And it's really because the bourbon industry, now that we have, bourbon cruises that are specifically bourbon cruises, that helps us a lot. So I think, from Louisville and from the state of Kentucky, you're doing an awful lot to help change that. And just as we said, in the mail yesterday, I got my Travel and Leisure magazine, and there's an ad from Louisville Tourism, Kentucky Tourism, and a great article about the bourbon industry and the restaurant industry here in Louisville. So I think you guys are doing an awful lot, and thanks for helping us out.
Sam, what do you think where we are in the industry here in the market?
I describe Louisville as a best kept secret. I think that they're poised for a lot of greatness here in the city. Bourbon tourism has exploded. Bourbon industry has exploded, and it is amazing the growth. And we're blessed to operate 3 hotels here in the market, and amazing the growth in that particular segment of our business. But that in and of itself is not enough. Certainly need to see more conventions, and in business travel being a little bit softer, people not traveling as much as they used to, and video conferencing taking over, we want to see some of the segments replaced. But you were talking earlier today about opportunities for the movie industry, and bringing movie tourism to the city. I think some of the wonderful other aspects of the city, whether it be the horse racing, thoroughbred industry, or some of the major drivers of business, in and around town. There is a lot of opportunity for Louisville. I look just a couple, miles south of us at Nashville. And if you think back, I guess 20, 25 years ago, probably a lot of similarities between the two cities. And look what's happened to Nashville. And I would love to see Louisville tourism explode on the scene.
Yeah. Nashville, but yeah, their opportunity is fantastic in terms of on the business. Scott, what do you think?
Hi, everybody, and thank you for coming. Hope you get something useful out of our time together tonight. Good. The industry in Louisville itself is, and I'm not just talking about the hotel business. I think overall, from a tourism perspective, there's so much that's offered here, and continues to be better and better news all the time. With the convention center being completed in 2018 and the Omni coming on board, we have 3 hotels here as well. Ours are the Vault House, Crown Plaza, and Suites right downtown. So we have a pretty substantial amount of diversity. So that literally within 20 minutes, you can be in some of the most beautiful, serene Louisville. The horse industry has exploded. People actually are looking for those experiences, even when we have large groups that come into the city. They want to do things other than just be in a meeting room all the time. So it's very attractive from so many different elements. I also think the support that we get from the mayor's office, which we had when Mayor Fisher was in place, urbanism was his phrase. He really put that in the forefront for us. And now with Craig in office as a developer, he developed 21 hotels, museum hotels. So he gets our business. And I think when we're looking forward, the question that we tend to always get from the mayor's office is what can we do to support that? And then with a substantial investment at state over at KDC and doing some reimagining there as well, I think that's just going to help push our business further and further out.
Yep, I agree with that. I'll give you a little bit of background. So I moved here to work at Louisville Tourism in 2013. 2013, there's not a distillery in downtown Louisville. So I believe Evan Williams opened towards the end of 2013, beginning of 14. The very first year Evan Williams Distillery Experience was open, 70,000 people came through the door. And so, of course, every other distiller that throughout the state was like, hot dog, I need to open one of those. The distiller's business, they've been in the business of distilling bourbon. They weren't necessarily in the business of visitors. And so what they built in downtown Louisville has been a visitor experience where we were from being a seasonal destination in Louisville to all year long, we have visitation coming in for the bourbon. You know, and I was telling, that's just, am I? Okay, I'll do it. Yeah, I was telling Steve this before we started. You know, it's important when we made the transition to lead, and Sean talked about that ad in Travel and Leisure. We made the transition to lead with bourbon as our. We got a lot of pushback because you are marketing alcohol. We didn't want to be Bourbon Street in New Orleans. We want to be more Napa and Sonoma. And so the experience around bourbon is about a tasting and pairing with food and understanding the notes. It was never about drinking as much as you can drink, and that branding has absolutely worked. We have 19 million visitors that come to Louisville every year, $3.4 billion in economic impact around that. So throughout asking these guys questions, I'll throw some more data at you. But I want to shift to the next question. And Sam started to talk about this. So when we think about our sector, hotels, museums and attractions, distilleries, passenger vessels, meeting facilities, airport, restaurant, what's missing? What do we need more of? What do we need less of? And Sam, I'll start with you because you started to get into that a little bit.
Well, there's a couple, quick answers to that. We could always use more convention business, right? The convention center, and I'm not sure the actual annual occupancy, but imagine a significant opportunity to attract, and with a beautiful facility just renovated, I think to take full advantage and leverage that to drive conventions, hotel. I mean, the conventions, when they come to bring such rich, vibrant economic activity to not only to the hotels, but all of the restaurants and just the city in general, and the billboard effect of attendees to those particular conventions. I attended a convention in Louisville. What an amazing city. They want to come back to tell their neighbors and their friends and like that. So I put that as number one. I think that we'd also could always use more business travel. We think about the hotel business, and I know that you all are well aware, it's an incredibly perishable business. Once that room night goes unsold, it never be sold again. So we think about it as a day of the week and months of the year and seasonality, and having more business travel, the segment that we call business travel, and encouraging business travel to our city is another area we could always use more of. There are big industries that are driving that, and we'd love to see more travel and encourage individuals to be more of a meeting center for Louisville. So those are the two. Leisure is always important as well, but I think that the city has done a wonderful job of developing that, and if we can turn our attention to those other two segments, I think it would be that much better. The last, international too. International bourbon internationally is it is known throughout this world. So cultivating travel from international locations, it would be another one that I'd add.
Scott, what are your thoughts on what's our sector missing? What do we got? What do we need more of? What do we need less of? What are we missing? And we think about our sector.
I'll take a little different angle. I think what is really missing today is the vibrancy that we need in a healthy downtown environment. So if you look at what's occurred in Louisville, I've been here for a little less than 10 years. You've seen, Papa John's depart. You've seen some large corporate citizens begin to relocate, and we've, the one good thing is a lot of the companies that were here were organic. They were grown. So when you're talking about free enterprise, the company I work for, actually on Saturday, we're celebrating our 76th year of being in Louisville. And so this is a locally owned company that was started by a gentleman with an 8th grade education that was a builder. And he helped build a lot of this city. So the idea of entrepreneurialism is really key here. So cultivating that to me is really critical. Cultivating the ability, the desire, to open those doors so that there can be the right level of investment, but also to attract new businesses in. When we're talking about business travel, Humana, who we also own commercial office buildings here, over the last 3 years, and we were getting ready to get more office space, but they, as of last year, had departed with, we lost 532,000 square feet of office space in downtown Louisville, and that equated to over 7,000 people that used to drive to work every day and come down. And when you're touring guests, and I can tell you, vibrancy and activity makes people not only believe that you have a healthy environment, it's also safe. So when there's, so it's very important that we begin to look at those opportunities, and I know there's a lot of dialogue going on about that. That's the first thing that I'll say. I think the other thing that we need to do is just stay on the path that we've headed. So we did not have, we had an image problem or non-image problem. Nobody really. When I first moved here 10 years ago, I said, I'm moving to Louisville, and they're like, awesome, the Kentucky Derby's in Lexington. And you talk to somebody at Churchill Downs about it, and they're like, yeah, we actually surveyed people, and they thought the Kentucky Derby was in Lexington, Kentucky. So we have a great story to tell, and so we have to, really go out and be our own best PR agents, and because the story is actually really good. And let me also finally add, the better Cardinals sports do, because that's really a big part of our brand. Our national brand, when people think about Nashville, they're not thinking about the University of Cincinnati or Xavier, they're thinking about the Titans, right? If they're thinking about Cincinnati, Cincinnati would be the Bengals, Titans are Nashville. Nashville's got a different connotation, but so U of L is our professional sports team. And we've got great facilities, we've got great coaches, 4-0, go Cards, hey. We're a big supporter of the university athletics, and that's because we know that we have a symbiotic relationship with the university. So the better the school does, the better it represents, the more that we can get that information out in front of the national landscape, the better off it is for everyone. So those are the two things I think.
John, what do you think? What are we missing?
What are we missing? Well, hey,
what do we need more of?
I'm the boat guy, so we are missing. I look at the gorgeous picture behind us, and the thing that's clear to me is a lot of great buildings. We don't really utilize our waterfront down here. And when I say that, it's great when we bring some boats in, but you really look, you don't really have many amenities for things. Our guests get off, we put out a red carpet. Buses pull down there by Joe's Crab Shack. They walk on a concrete pad. There's nothing there. When they look in the river most of the time is fairly dirty, a lot of debris and trash floating. And, we haven't spent much time for a city that lives on a major river. We've done very little to develop that. So I'm the vice chairman of the Hornblower Company, and we have 168 dinner cruise boats nationwide. And yet there's never been a good dinner cruise operation here in Louisville. For those of you that might remember 10 or 12 or 15 years ago, we had the Star of Louisville, but that was a marginal operation at best. The other thing, if you have a dinner cruise boat, but one of the things we proposed, I think to Rebecca Jackson when we were running the Belle of Louisville, was that we have a little ferry. And that little ferry could take you along the waterfront, take you over to Indiana, and a great way to just be out on the water. The other interesting thing is when we take our boats to Madison now, there's a little jet boat company that does jet boat rides, and they actually come to Louisville. You can do the all-day trip, and they'll bring you all the way down the Ohio River from Madison to lunch at Captain's Quarters and take you back. But it's a very, very informative tour, because every 10 minutes they'll stop and talk about a site and what used to be here and what was there. They'll talk about the Ohio River and how it's cleaning up and how eagles are coming back, how we have eagles in Louisville, there's bobcats around, and the ecology. But here in Louisville, we don't do that for some reason. And so I'm with Scott, downtown vibrancy, getting more people down to the waterfront, getting people that feel safe. and making better utilization of our waterfront.
That's great. Thanks, John. And Scott, I'm going to start with you. And I'm going to start where John finished with your comments. And I want to get into, so how is the destination delivering on the visitor experience? But I want you to answer that question. And then thinking about the audience we have out here, we may have some entrepreneurs, what could be developed that's going to improve the visitor experience? So tell me what your thoughts are on the visitor experience currently, and then what could an entrepreneur develop that's going to help our visitor experience? So you think about you and Sam, you have hotel guests who come in and out and say, I had this experience or I had that experience. John, you have folks getting off of a boat and they have this experience or that experience. What are we missing? What could be developed? What is it like today?
I think the visitor experience right now is a little disjointed, honestly. And when you come into the hotel, and all of our hotels, so 2 of our hotels are downtown, one's out by the airport. So I can tell you when you're out by the airport, guess what you're doing when you're out by the airport? You're probably either in a meeting or you're listening to airplanes land, or you're going to go probably downtown or maybe down to Bardstown. But you're beginning to see an adjustment. So what I mean by disjointed is people would go to Franklin Avenue, they would go to Bardstown. Nulu is the new hotspot for people to really come down and enjoy. And I think what they're missing, and I mean, you're going to school here, so I'm sorry to tell you, both my kids went to UK, but didn't. My daughter did get her master's from U of L, so thanks to Jeff, he was at her graduation. And but what we've got to create is more synergies that go on between the various areas. So transportation is really a key that we're looking for. Having creative entertainment is something that's really challenging here right now. Finding quality, consistent, really good entertainment in the various venues that are here. And there's a willingness for us to want to be able to utilize that. I think nightlife is also something. If you're 4th Street Live. Anybody here been to 4th Street Live? Because I'll tell you, it really is a tourist destination. And so that's not what tourists want anymore. What tourists want is they want a flavor of and the experience that locals go to. And I need to go on one of John's cruises sometime, because when I vacation, I go on a boat. So, and I love that because it gives me the opportunity to go and experience cultures from various different areas. And so that's even what people are looking for when they're traveling within the United States, because California is not like Wisconsin, which is not like Colorado, which is not like Florida. And so that diversity is something that's really, really necessary. So how you can begin to tie that into bourbonism, art, I'm telling you, art is something that we absolutely, so if you're Mo, and music, so we just had Danny Wimmer here, so we need to definitely begin to build more and more. When we had Forecastle, that started here. Unfortunately, it's not coming back. It didn't come back this year, but that literally started with a brother and a sister that went, man, wouldn't it be awesome if we started music festivals here in Louisville, Kentucky? So all you have to do is have a dream, and there are venture capitalists that are here. There are people that are ready to put their money to work if you have good thoughts, and so networking is really important. So anyway, those are my quick thoughts.
That's good. Sam, what do you think about the visitor experience? What's missing? What could an entrepreneur here in the room develop?
Well, I think authenticity, as Scott touched on, is absolutely critical. Authentic experiences, and if a young budding entrepreneur could help tourists discover authentic experiences, here in town, and making sure that they are aware and perhaps even charting an itinerary, for a visitor that's staying at the airport. So utilizing technology to create an itinerary for an individual that wants to discover different aspects of Louisville, I think would be an amazing app. One that I would love to download. There's so many rich aspects of this city that I think are underutilized, remain undiscovered. How do you help our tourists tap into those and make sure that they're on their bucket list for their trip to Louisville?
That's great. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I always have a thought on something.
That's all right, that's good.
You know, so it's interesting. I'm going to go back to what Scott said, is really some of the interconnectivity downtown. What we found that we have to do, and it's not just in Louisville, but it's every city. So we have a fleet of buses that we call them steam coaches, or with our wrap, that follow our boat. And the reason for that is when we get to cities, especially like Louisville, there is not a good way to get from the boat to the Louisville Bats Museum, to the Fraser Arms Museum, to the Science Center, out to Churchill Downs, and back. So what we have called hop on, hop off, where there's a sign, you can get off, and if I want to spend an hour, you know, at the Louisville Bats Museum, I can do that. If my wife Claudette, you know, wants to go to a jewelry store nearby or have a really nice martini at C21, you know, she can get off and hop back on. And so it's that connectivity. But both of them said everybody's looking for unique experiences. And I know my son-in-law used to work for Old Forester, and he does some unbelievable personal VIP tastings, just 6 people. Mint Julep Tours does that, where you get to do something high-end. So our clients, you know, again, they will spend for a couple for a 1-week cruise is $6,000 to $10,000. And so when they come here, you know, it's good for the city of Louisville, because our statistics say that every single passenger that gets off our boat spends $172 here in Louisville. And that's before we fly them in and pay for them to stay at a downtown hotel. And then a lot of times they'll come back. But they're looking for unique experiences. So if I'm a budding entrepreneur out here, I go, let me get this right. That big old boat, the American Queen, comes, it has 420 people on it, or the American Count is 250. They're here in town just for 8 or 10 hours. I'm going to get, you know, a pedicab and give them a private tour. I'm going to get one of my friends to set up a VIP lunch and a private tasting, and really, or a limo if you could do something. But there are high-end clients coming here that have a lot of money, and they're willing to part with that money fairly freely. You know, you just have to give them something that is unique, worth it, and everybody wants to do something that nobody else gets to do. It's crazy. It's all the one-upmanship. And then I'll just say, you know, you look at kind of what they're doing in Cincinnati, and, you know, you talk about the waterfront development there. But again, when Scott was talking about festivals, I go back to Alan Bernstein, who started Tall Stacks, where he used to bring all these steamboats in, you know, once every 5 years, but it turned into a huge opportunity. So we have it, and the infrastructure's there. We just need to improve upon it.
That's great. I appreciate you all giving these guys some ideas out here. That's fantastic. I'm gonna turn and talk about hotels, and John, I know you've got people employed on your boat. So yesterday there was a story in the Los Angeles Times, and it said U.S. hotels are missing more than 238,000 employees, according to this story in the L.A. Times yesterday. It said, and the story went on to say, clearly tourism is back, but workers are not. And as I mentioned before, here in Louisville, our sector is growing. We've got hotels being developed downtown. We've got distilleries and tasting rooms being developed. Derby City Gaming is being built right across the street from the convention center, and that's not by accident. So there's development in our sector, but where are we going to get the workers? You know, so I want to hear from you all. You know, what do we need to do to drive more professionals to our sector? And Sam, you got the mic, so we'll start with you.
We have to let people know what an amazing career. You know, working in a hotel is not just it's a job. It is an opportunity for an amazing career. There is no other business where you can, you mentioned, you know, an 8th grade education. There are managers of some of the largest hotels in the world that don't have any formal education. The hotel business, you need to have a hospitable, warm, and engaging personality and a second to none work ethic, and there is no ceiling to where you can go in the business. In my last company, the individual that was our CO didn't have a college degree. Did not go to college, but he was as hardworking and just had the ingenuity that was second to none and rose to level. So I think that if we let individuals know what career paths could look like coming into the hotel business, my first job, I was a bellhop. That was my first job. When I was summers in high school and into college, and realized that I loved the business, and went on to study it in school. Studied hotel administration, and have never looked back. It is an amazing industry, and it has an amazing career potential for anybody that has those two aspects. Hardworking individuals, because it's not 9 to 5, right? There's no 9 to 5 aspect about anything that we do in our business. It's nights, it's weekends. We were talking outside. It's overnights, right? They're 24/7 businesses, and when it's holidays. So you have to have that work ethic, and then you just have to have that hospitable piece to you. That the individuals make special memories for individuals traveling.
Okay.
My turn?
Scott, yeah.
I kind of similar to Sam, I think we all have stories, but we've kind of come to the realization that the industry has changed. And so I think it's important that we get out in front of people as it relates to careers. I laugh or joke all the time, all I do is make beds and flip cheeseburgers, which is not true. So, and both of our corporate offices are here in Louisville. And for us, what I tell students and I tell people in the business is kind of what Sam said. You don't have to have a college education here, but if you do, in our organization, we have finance, we have marketing. I don't mean sales and marketing. I mean, I literally have someone that I hired from U of L who is our marketing director for our company, and she graduated 2 years ago. And so if you're analytical, it can be really good for you. My assistant is, my executive assistant graduated with Natalie. And by the way, I would not want to sit outside my office if I were her. And she's spectacular, and she's learned a tremendous amount over this period of time. So it's the aspect of you do have to love all people. That's the number one entry point for us in our organization. But we also want to look at organic growth. But I'll go back to, if you're an IT person, awesome. Got you covered. If you're somebody that really wants to work on creative concept development, awesome. We do our own restaurant concepts. We do our own project management for construction. So we've tried to internalize and to help career path people that have an interest in various aspects of their professional career. The challenge for us is we're a small organization. We're not large like Schulte is. But we're now beginning to expand, and that story reverberates with other owners and other people in our industry. It's a very exciting industry. You get up in the morning, it's a lifestyle business. You literally get to live it. And so, but for our internally, retention is really critical. So we do our own career pathing programs for our own staff. So we have the L.J. Schneider Leadership Academy, wherein we do that for our hourly associates. So if you're already in a leadership position, we're going to work on your leadership skills all the time. But if you have a desire and a willingness to want to begin to step forward and grow your career, sometimes people have to be asked today. In the old days, we used to say, if you don't ask, you don't get the opportunity. So we actually want people to be able to go through this, and we get them involved in community service and professional presentations, and they have homework and reading assignments and group programs and all of those types of things, which is what you work through in a business environment. Similar to what you will do in a classroom, we just do it in a condensed version. So we try and think about things a little bit more deliberately and a little bit more purposeful, because what we've done is we've grown talent for other companies. And what we want to do is grow talent for ourselves. So if you're creative, it's a great industry for you. If you're analytical, it's a great business for you. If you're sales driven, it's a great business for you. But if you don't like people, it's not a good business for you. I just would like to go on that. And some people, believe it or not, don't like other people. But you have to love them in our business.
All right. John?
Yeah, so I think the whole hospitality business took a big hit during COVID. I'll say for us personally, they shut our boats down. We were completely shut down for 9 months, had to lay everybody off and then restart. But when we restarted, what we found, and I never forget, I was listening to NPR, and they interviewed 2 people from the hospitality industry, and one was a chef. And the chef basically said, I never realized how bad my life was till COVID hit. And the person said, what do you mean? He said, well, you know, as a chef, I show up at noon, I start prepping things, the restaurant opens at 5, we start cooking, I cook all day over a hot stove, I clean everything up, you know, I have a drink with my friends at 2 in the morning, I get home at 3 in the morning, and I start all over again. He said, I wasn't sleeping well, I wasn't eating well, I wasn't getting exercise, but then COVID happened, and I got laid off. He said, so I started to sleep a little bit more, and I said, wow, that's pretty cool, sleeping in. And he said, I started to eat healthier. I dropped 15, 20 pounds. I started to exercise. And he said, I'm never going back to the hospitality industry. And I go, oh my God, this is a death knell for us. And it was tough. But when we first opened up on our dinner cruise operations, we simply didn't have enough people and had to cancel almost $10 million worth of business because we didn't have enough people that showed up. But as Jeff said, he said, hey, John, if you can leave these guys with some opportunities, so here's my pitch to you guys. It was a tough start. I know, that was a tough start, but I'm going to finish strong. It's a tough start, but people ask, you know, well, John, why should I come to work for American Queen Voyages? And the story I tell them is we held a job fair in Memphis when we first started, and we had about 1,000 people that showed up for some 200 jobs. And so the TV station is down there, and a gentleman that interviewed me quite a while, so we were so overwhelmed that I personally got in and was doing interviews, you know, and he pulled me off the line and said, hey, John, can I get a quick interview? And I go, of course. He said, well, are you surprised with the turnout? I said, yeah, we thought 200 or 300 people would show up. We had 800 or so show up. And he said, well, John, you know, what are you interviewing for? I said, well, we're interviewing for chefs, prep chefs, you know, porters, hotel managers, people that clean rooms, everything. And he said, well, why would someone want to come to work for you? And I said, well, first of all, let me tell you about our ideal candidate, because that will weed some people out. I said, but we really want people that they like people. Number 2, they're raised by really good parents and have good manners. Number 3, they're not married, and I'll tell you about that because you go, oh, you can't discriminate, you know, but they're not married. Number 4, they're not smokers and they're not drinkers. And he says, wow, that's some tough criteria. And I said, it is, but now if you get through all those, let me tell you why it's a perfect job for you, and especially for people that are just graduating college. I said, look, once you're interviewed, we fly you to work, we pay for your flights to work, we have someone pick you up at the airport, bring you to the boat. You work 6 weeks on and 3 weeks off. During that 6 weeks, we pay for 3 meals a day. We pay for your room and board, your cable TV, your electric bill, medical, dental, vision, 401k, training program. We work you 12 hours a day, so we hardly ever let you off the boats because you can't spend your money. At the end of 6 weeks, every 2 weeks, you have automatic deposit that goes right into your checking account, and we don't let you spend it. So when you get off, you go, oh my God, I got all this money in my checking account that I never thought I'd have, because when I was like you guys and going to school, I would just live, you know, Friday to Friday, paycheck to paycheck. But kids now, when they come and they work on board and they see that, then they go, oh my God, this is amazing. And if they don't have car payments, and if they're living at their parents, or they share a place with friends for their 2 weeks off, it's amazing. What's really amazing is that we've had people that have gotten married and they both live on the boat in the same stateroom, and they save twice as much. And so one couple that we have that was able to save over like a 4-year period over $100,000 in cash. That is tough to do. So that's why all your guys, I'm giving out flyers at your hotels to try and get them to come to work for us. But the hospitality business, very cool business. If you ever think about working on a boat, AQV.com, go to the employment section, tell them you talked to John Waggoner, put a plug in for me.
We let them drink every now and again.
I know you guys do. We let them drink every now and again.
Hey, Steve and Jeff, I'm looking at the clock. Is that for us to go back to the audience with questions, or, okay. Are there any questions? Oh.
Next question, up to the microphone, please.
Hello, my name is James Lecklatter. I am a junior econ major. I was curious if you all think it is more important to get more people to come into Louisville or to extend the dollars that they spend when they're already here.
Both.
We'll take, C. We'll take urban C. Yeah.
No, but I will say, from a Louisville tourism perspective, our drive is to get people into the market. Once they're in the market, then whether it's a hotel, distillery, restaurant, what that price point is not only from our perspective, but I'm trying to drive people into the marketplace.
I'll take it real quick. I think the other thing, and this goes back to a lot of the subject matter that Cleo was asking about, really the quality of experience makes a big difference to how much money people will spend when they're out. So people do budget dollars unless they're my children. They don't know what that word means, or my wife. She's not here tonight, so I can say that. So, but if people are really enjoying themselves, I mean, you'll go a little bit further. And I think that's what's critical for us, and I think that's also what's unique for this market. Because there is so much to experience. And some of it doesn't cost you a thing. But if we did have the infrastructure, and I feel bad I was going to talk about the waterfront for John, because I think that's critical. And for whatever we do for the tourists, first and foremost, we have to do it for the citizens. That's what's really important. And so the best referral that you'll ever get is someone that lives in the city. And when people feel that way, that creates that vibrancy that's really so critical. And then, because we don't want you here once, we want you here as many times as we can get you to come back.
Next question.
My name is Lynn Hampton, and I'm a two-time graduate of the business school, my undergrad and master's, and I would like to talk about the waterfront and your concerns about the waterfront. We do have something here that's an immovable object, which is 64 that goes down the waterfront. And that mistake was made a long time ago, and I think it's an immovable object. So with that in mind, are you working with the city's Parks Department? Are you working with the waterfront foundations and those people to make the waterfront better? A lot has happened over the last, say, 20 years in improving it, including the new botanical garden. But what are you doing to, if that's the issue, what are you doing to work with people to get it to change?
I'll say it wasn't an immovable object in Boston, right?
Nor was it in San Francisco, because on the Embarcadero, remember, 101 used to come right down there, and it has been moved, and it really opened up the Embarcadero, and they've done a great job. At least they did till homelessness and crime set in, but that's a whole nother story. So the short answer is, we're not doing near enough, nor are we involved enough in doing that, because we've talked to a lot of people, we've made a lot of proposals, but in all honesty, we should do that. We're on several coalitions where we work on cleaning up the whole river. We're on the Council of Mayors for the waterfront, all up and down the river, but we need to do way more. And even me personally, like I say, I wrote a business plan once about the ferry, and I was actually going to fund that. And the crazy thing is, there's some boats in Philadelphia that they got from grant money that are just sitting there that we could use. And so I actually need to do more, and thanks for bringing me to task on that, because it's easy to complain, it's tougher to do anything. But on the flip side is, we're bringing an awful lot of guests here to Louisville on our boats. We're trying to push the Ohio River much more than the Mississippi River. We're focusing a lot on bourbon cruises right now, for 2024 and 2025. And so, but we can always do more.
We actually have the only waterfront hotel in the city, so the Galt House is the only hotel that's on the water. So, and so I am involved, but it's primarily through the mayor's office and then through Frankfurt. And there is a plan right now to move further west with the development that the state's got plans to begin to fund that, which I think will be helpful, but that doesn't address really what the issues are. The mayor's also working on an initiative because the Belvedere is directly downtown. That's been an unfortunate lapse of lifestyle. It's deteriorated over the last 50 plus years. It was constructed at the same time as the Galt House West. And all of that interconnects together, all of that experience. But there are a few things that the mayor's office is beginning to contemplate as it relates to waterfront development for lifestyle of our locals. And there was a program that I was involved with in a different state in Oklahoma City that was the Court Ashore program, where they did move, the highway ran along the river in Oklahoma City, and they removed it and put in the Olympic rowing facility, and part of that whole initiative was for the residents in that community. So now the final thing I'll add is our mayor actually does have now a very good working relationship with the legislature up in Frankfurt. And that, I think, will pay dividends to us because there's actually a dialogue going on. So that's really what we needed more than anything, was to begin to get those doors opened for good communication. So I do have a pretty strong level of optimism over it.
I'll go ahead and make a comment on that, because we were hired to run the Oklahoma City ferry service, which is really true, because everybody said, well, I didn't even know that Oklahoma City had a river. And they didn't. They built a dam, they built almost 6 miles of river, and now it's an anchor for Olympic whitewater rafting, rowing, and it's incredible what they've done. But it also took, I know that we were involved with Devon Energy that actually bought the boats and everything else, and so corporations got involved. But talk about, it used to be just a drainage ditch, and they built it into something, and we did start doing, dinner cruises on that and evening cruises, and it made a big difference. And if you look at what they did with a drainage ditch compared to what we have and what we could be, it's unbelievable. But thanks for bringing that up.
Next question.
This is probably mainly for you, Cleo. Is Louisville tourism driven mainly by in-state tourism or out-of-state tourism?
Out-of-state tourism.
Out-of-state tourism.
Yep.
Then I have a second question, if I may. Are you guys fine? All right.
Please do.
Sam, I believe you mentioned the tax cuts for filming in Louisville. Are we seeing that as a main driver in tourism in the future, coming to Louisville with the sound stages being built downtown, as well as the 35 to 40% tax cut on it?
The only thing I can tell you is that we operate hotels in Albuquerque, New Mexico, who has adopted that strategy and has become the number one driver of hotel business. So I am a big believer in the potential. I've seen it, front and center, and been the beneficiary of hotels that we've run there. So I think it is a tremendous untapped potential. I know, Cleo, you talked about it as well.
So right now, the state of Kentucky, I believe it's either second or third. We have the second or third best incentives for filmmaking in the country. And so we are trying to invest more in that space to drive filmmaking into the market. Obviously, for me, it's specifically into Jefferson County and to Louisville. When I moved here from Richmond, Virginia, and we were able to land the film Lincoln, and the film Lincoln was filmed right in downtown Louisville. Months worth of filming, and the the economic impact it had, and I'd like to see the same thing happen here in Louisville, especially while we have great incentives. Because as I understand it, in that industry, states keep bobbing up and down, and so while we got great incentives now, we may not have great incentives in 2 years. So we're trying to invest more in that space, and yes, like you said, there's some investment. Infrastructure investment in the studio downtown. So I hope to see that momentum continue. It's a market we haven't spent a lot of time in here in Louisville. So as I said, this guy's my boss. He wants to see me drive more and more different business into the marketplace. So we're looking forward to trying to dive into that space a little more.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, this is something I've wondered since coming to Louisville for school, but I was wondering if there's ever been a debate in the tourism industry of whether to clean up or gentrify the area around Churchill Downs, because I know even compared to Keeneland in Lexington, the area is super rich, it's super safe, super clean, and we don't really see that here around Churchill Downs.
Great question that I do not have an answer to. I guess the answer to your question is no, I have not been a part of that conversation or have heard anyone talk about that specifically. Certainly Churchill does a lot of investing in their facility, but I have not heard about the community around Churchill. I don't know if, no?
There has, this has been a little bit of controversy actually, as Churchill has acquired some properties in and around for various reasons, and a lot of the homes that are there is where valets would be and other people that have worked in the racing industry, and those homes have passed down from family to family to family to family. So that, you know, you always have to be very conscious of the history that's gone on in that area. And the gentrification word is something that is not very appealing in any community here in Louisville. I mean, I don't know where you're from, but this was a red line area. There was a lot of redlining that went on here, and a lot of other things.
I'm from Cincinnati, and it's a very touchy topic as well.
So it is.
Yes.
So yeah, and thank you for being a college student saying the word gentrification.
Sorry.
So that in and of itself.
I know it's
yeah.
political.
So Churchill, and I will say Churchill has been a good steward for the city. So I think they're very, very conscious of what goes on with that. I don't have a lot of interaction, a little bit with them, but I do know anytime something has happened, it's usually made the newspaper.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next question. Oh, I'm sorry, Sam, do you have a?
I would just add, though, safety and security is paramount to any, quality tourist experience. So regardless of, who's living where or what type of people, having individuals be feeling safe and secure is absolutely critical. I mean, look what's happening to some, cities. We talked about San Francisco, right? It is one that comes to mind. It was a, historic, one of the hottest tourism beds in the United States. I think second to maybe New York City and Los Angeles, perhaps. And because people don't feel safe, they stay away. So that's one thing that can be done right away without any changes in people.
Next question.
Hi, my name's Molly Spicer. I'm a sophomore business administration major, and I previously worked for White Lodging at the Louisville Marriott downtown, and it was rare to see either U of L students or U of L graduates in that hospitality space. So my question is, what can the university do to introduce students into that hospitality industry, and what can U of L students do to prepare themselves for a career in the hospitality industry?
Career fairs would be a great, a great, first step. I think internship programs also would be for an excellent opportunity to do that. I don't know if there are internships for college credit that are, available. That's an excellent opportunity for people to get exposed to, to the business. But having it be just an overall part of the curriculum. When I went to school, you had to have practical credit hours in the hotel business. I think we needed somewhere 800 or 1,000 hours before you could graduate. And I think it's an excellent exposure to it.
And thanks for that question. I mean, we have worked with U of L quite a bit in hiring interns. And I believe, almost every intern that we had turned into a full-time employee. And so several interns, Justin Walker is one I use, he went to law school here and started with us as an intern. I think he's been with us for 8 years. We've had other people that have gone in the marketing department and continue to move on and graduate. So I always say internships, find a business and a company that you really like, petition with them. We're all looking for, free help, discounted help, whatever it is. But we found U of L has been great, and even the School of Business, they've done a capstone project for us where I was looking at a business plan, and a lot of resources from U of L that everyone as businessmen can take advantage of.
And I'll take a swing. I guess I feel like I have to answer every question, so give me the microphone. We touched on it a little bit ago. Look, there's no prerequisite to getting started in this business, and Ken Euler's sitting right there who helps facilitate all of that. And Jeff Guam came and met with me some time ago to talk about starting a certificate program here or a minor program with the university. And we had and look, a lot of the things that they offer here as it relates to the distilling certificate or all of the other programs, they're exceptionally complementary to what our industry is about. And I'll go back to it's just experiential. So, there are absolutely job fairs here. We've participated in job fairs. We have a willingness, again, to help. I started as a door host. I never ever dreamed I would be president of a company. Still wonder why I'm doing it now, because all I ever wanted to do was be a general manager. So, although being a bartender really rocks, let me tell you, it's a lot of fun. So it's really just showing the interest, and there are lots of opportunities here to get in, to find a job, to get involved. Sometimes I've honestly just had students that have reached out from both UK and U of L and said, can I come by and have a cup of coffee and sit and talk to you about the business? Because I might have an interest in the industry. So networking is really important. Feeling confident in yourself is really important. Those are all just regular skills. And I can tell you what will always put you a step ahead is just finish your degree. Whatever it is, just finish. And that's always something that I think anybody that's a recruiter looks at and says, you've got the discipline to go through 4 years or 5 years, perhaps, and you've completed the task. And those skills mean a lot because we know that you will work through the regimen to be able to get the tasks accomplished. So.
Yeah, and I will just add, and I'll put my commercial out there. This is a growing industry in Louisville. And while I gave you those numbers about 238,000 folks, 238,000 staff people short in hotels across the country, we're growing here. And I know these guys in their particular areas, they need more professionals in the door, without a doubt. And I think it's and I think she was from Cincinnati, is that right? Yeah. Yeah. Once you get experience in this industry, I'm from Colorado, and I went from Denver to Phoenix, a couple different cities in California, upstate New York, Virginia, here. You can live anywhere you want once you got the experience in this industry. I just think and again, I'm selling it, but I think it's a fantastic industry that I've been in all my life. So, and it's great to be in a city that it's growing and that you've had 149 years of the Kentucky Derby and bringing visitors to this community. Like, this community gets this industry. So I think you should invest in it. That's my commercial. Next question.
Hello, my name is Raymond Green. I'm the Executive Director of Undergrad Programs here at the College of Business. We have several students here who are entrepreneurially minded and both at the graduate and undergraduate level who may want to one day start their own business in the hospitality industry, whether that's hotels or restaurants, whatever the case may be. So could you maybe give one word of advice to any of our students that may want to start their own business in the hospitality industry?
Take a shot at answering. One of the things that comes to mind is be of service. One of my favorite quotes from in this industry is actually from a famous hotelier, E.M. Statler. Started a chain of hotels, and many of them are Hiltons now. But he said that life is service. The one who succeeds is the one who provides a little more, a little better service. So that would be my advice to anybody that wants to start their own business.
I would start off by saying rethink that first. Make sure that's really what you want. Do the statistics. Hospitality business is fun, but it's tough in bars and restaurants and everything else. But if that's what you want to do, you should do it. So I'm going to give a quote too from someone that was actually in the gaming business, and it was Jack Binion. We helped open up 5 riverboat casinos in the state of Indiana. We were working with Jack Binion, and when you have a chance to sit across, we're having dinner as just Jack and I and some other people, and I was a newly minted MBA student, so I said, "Hey Jack, do you have a special business axiom or anything?" And he said, "No, not really." He said, "Same thing." He said, "John, you know my background, never went to college, but loved the hospitality business, loved the gaming business. One of the few guys that used to still take a $1 million bet on a single hand of blackjack." But his words of advice were, he said, "My business axiom is the harder I work, the luckier I get." And I said, "Jack, I am going to use the heck out of that, because I'll speak for me personally. I was never the smartest tool in the shed. I really wasn't. But I would outwork anybody. I just love to work hard." And it's a one reoccurring theme you've heard all of us say. It's a fun business, but it's a lot of hard work. And if you're willing to work hard, the rewards are phenomenal. I never thought, from a kid that got his start by being on the end of a scrub brush working on sport fishing boats in the 6th grade, that one day I would own a business, that employs all these people, 5,000 employees that we have, in the whole corporate business and everything now. And all that got me there was I loved what I did. And it was interesting because we have a Friday night group that started during COVID, and some really smart business people and really good people in the community. And the other day we were just sitting around drinking wine, and there's one of the guys that worked for Manpower and has a PhD, so he asked the big, high theoretical questions. He said, "Hey, so if you guys could do anything that you want, what would you do?" And it's interesting because my neighbor, who owns a big construction company, he said, "I'd move dirt. I'd be on a dozer all day long because I love moving dirt." And he said, "What about you, John?" I said, "I'd be driving a boat. I love driving a boat. When I was running dinner cruise boats, I used to have people come in the pilot house and talk to me, and it's really interesting because in the hospitality business, I used to ask them, "Hey, how's your evening going on a scale of 1 to 10? And they give me a number, and then I'd say, "If you could change 3 things, what would you change and why?" And it wasn't their answer, it's how long it took them to respond. If they could respond right away and said, "The line for boarding was too long, your server spilled a drink on me, and my chicken was cold and rubbery," we have failed. But if they said, "I need to think on that for a little bit," I knew things probably went right. And they said, "Oh, I don't like your toilet paper, it's too rough," or something. But I would know then that we did just fine. But the secret to my success, just like anybody else, is, I love driving boats, love playing with boats. So for me, it was never hard work. And I tell everybody when I meet with, people that want to be young entrepreneurs, I said, find something that you love. And we used to put it on our paychecks. Find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. But I still go with the harder I work, the luckier I get.
We're all going to mimic each other for the most part. But again, part of that, every organization has their own culture. And I do believe successful people are driven by happiness. So what we constantly try and have dialogue about is to find your happy place. And I say that time and time and time again. And I think
And I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, and so today I think we try and put more. I've never met more CEOs in my life than I've met today. I don't even think that job existed when I was a kid. And so we're driven today more by money and by title, and it's funny that I say that being a president and a CEO, but I always introduce myself, I'm just Scott. So so my happy place, literally kind of to John's point, I wouldn't change anything about the industry that I'm in at all because I've always been happy in it. And even through the challenges and travails that we've had, and it's not just been COVID. I mean, I've had the good fortune to travel. I've worked in Asia and the Caribbean, and I've had a fabulous. I always am an adventurer. I'm a wanderer, and when I finally got into a leadership position, I was always the youngest sitting at the table. Now I'm one of the oldest, and I would say for what I lack in experience, I make up for in tenacity. Well, I have the experience today, but I still have that same tenacity. But what I don't want that to be is overwhelming for people that are just starting their careers, because you can blow that candle out. So for whatever it is that you choose that you want to be, and God bless you if you want to be a business owner, I encourage you to do it. But do your due diligence, understand the subject matter, recognize that failure is an option, because some people get into business and say failure's not an option. Well, it is, because it happens all the time. And be prepared to be disappointed. That's one thing that happens time and time again in our dynamic industry. We don't write code. We work in an emotional industry. That's really what we do. We try and touch those emotions and those senses. And I work for a gentleman, and I will give a quote, but he's not that famous. And it was, think about from a client's perspective, your worst day is probably somebody's best. And I thought that was really important. When you come to work, what they're coming, you could have had a really tough day, but for that person, this could be their one dream vacation. They've thought about this their entire life. And it could be your worst day, but for them, it's their best day. So anyway, I think you've heard a lot of consistency. Thanks.
Last thing I'll say to that question for you entrepreneurs in the room, I will just say surround yourself by like-minded people that will help you in your business to grow. So let's, I don't see any more questions. Can we give our panel a hand?
So I'd like to thank our panel. We've got a little gift for them. If I wasn't so old and I didn't like my job so much, I'd be up talking to these guys about finding a job. But thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate it. It was wonderful. Part-time employees too. Can I work part-time for them? All right. Thank you guys for coming. We've got an event on October 17th, why it's okay to be rich. So come here and learn.